Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and I'd be able to send my next batch of videos to your inbox tomorrow morning. If you like this watch, you can buy it and 1,700 of its friends on thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches 24 hours a day and globally on thewatchbox.com. Okay, let's turn back the clock, and this is basically a clock, let's face it, to 2003. Terminator 3 debuted 11 years after Terminator 2. Arnold, who was by that point more interested in politics than the silver screen, played the Terminator one more time, reprising the role he made famous. And since he was and remains an Audemars Piguet brand ambassador, there was a limited edition associated. Now, this watch was part of a series of 1,000 broken up into two flights, 750 pieces with the anthracite dial you see here, and 250 pieces with a silver white dial. This is the stronger look and the one I prefer of the two. The watch is immense. It's Terminator sized. A big screen blockbuster for your wrist. This is the 48mm Royal Oak Offshore case size that AP has historically reserved for Shaq and Arnold. You scarcely see it for any other purpose. So brought out for the occasion, it's not as thick as you might expect, as at 15.7mm it could almost be a standard Royal Oak Offshore. But from lug to lug, this one really stretches its wings. As broad as the gap between the second and the third Terminator movies, 61.5mm means this is too big for my wrist, and my wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. Could you wear it? Yeah, you could, because it has the first generation Royal Oak Offshore hinged lug as opposed to the plot. So it can actually pull straight down in a way a strap on the plot style lug cannot. It'll fit, it'll sit, but your taste in watches may dictate a better proportion. That said, it'll stay put on my wrist. I would recommend a wrist of 17 centimeters in circumference to have a slightly better match between wrist size and case size. But it is titanium. This is reference 25863TI, so the entirety of the watch is in the great gray metal. It's a nice match for the dial in a way that the silver white of the other version simply isn't. The case is offshore. Everything you'd expect from the expressed bezel gasket to the combination of polished bevels and satin finished surfaces. It gives way to that lug profile I mentioned. The earliest Royal Oak Offshores on straps featured this lug profile, so they didn't have the double intermediate links called the plots. They had screw-fixed single hinge straps. Now, of course, AP still sells these straps, and because there is an aftermarket industry built around the likes of the Royal Oak Offshore, you'll also have aftermarket options, but it makes it more wearable if you're borderline sized for this watch, because unlike the plots, which create stiffness and prevent you from pulling the strap in, this lets you pull it tight. The strap is substantial, and Audemars Piguet did well to make the strap broad, as it prevents the watch from torquing and twisting on the wrist. It's calfskin bolstered down the center with a contrasting stitch. It does have folded edges, so you can see the layers comprising the strap, and on the underside, you'll note that this is a new AP factory strap, paired with a matching and truly enormous titanium pin buckle, on-the-fly adjustment, Terminator style. This one can transform like the T1000 for sizing. The watch has several cuts in the strap, and it's almost comical to see how small the pin buckle apertures are in the sheer expanse of the strap. The case back features the T3 movie logo, so make no mistake, you will see the movie logo blazon on your wrist when you take the watch off, but you do not feel it. The case profile itself is actually quite comfortable because the case back is so broad and flat, there are no pressure points or hot spots, and titanium is hypoallergenic. The bezel is the classic Royal Oak and Offshore bezel, with the key distinction that this being an offshore, the bolts are stainless steel rather than the white gold or yellow gold as seen on a standard Royal Oak. You'll also note just how dramatically the thickness of that huge crystal creates a distortion off-axis, almost like a vintage plexiglass dive watch. We can get a little bit closer to the dial, and I'm going to try to give you somewhat better detail, but it's somewhat hard to capture without going flush like this. Okay, let me give you more light. this is how we'll do our tour of the dial. This is not mega tapisserie, this is super ultra mega tapisserie. It's a stamped pattern as opposed to the pantograph pattern cut into the standard Royal Oaks. You can see that all of the indices are applied white gold and the hands at center are white gold to match. There will be a loom shot, it will be epic. The watch features orange highlights for the sub-registers as well as the chronograph seconds hand, and you'll note outboard the tachymeter scale is more visually pleasing in this proportion relative to the dial than it is on a standard Royal Oak. I find as a wispy halo-like surround, it works better aesthetically than the more dominant and proportionally larger component that it becomes on the smaller Royal Oaks, especially the 42. So I consider that an aesthetic upgrade. It's still a modular movement, and thus we have the magnifier over the sunken date. Countersunken sub-registers, you will note that the chronograph sub-registers are somewhat larger than constant seconds at 12 o'clock, and this is really one of those aspects of the watch, along with the size, that sets it apart from just about anything else AP has made. First, the crown is not a screw down. Though the watch remains 100 meters water resistant, you simply pull that crown up when you want to access it and set the watch. It has plenty of protection via full-featured all-aspect guard, crafted from titanium. This one's more secure than a Panerai Luminor. Now, it feels like you're pulling the pin on a grenade, but there are removable guards for the chronograph pushers. So should you wish to operate the chronograph, you simply lift the guard, which, despite appearances, actually feels incredibly solid. The milling work done on those parts is impressive. And now you simply reset the chronograph, and it works like any Royal Oak chronograph, but there is considerably more theater, should I say silver screen panache, invested in this one. What's inside, however, is more germane to the AP line. You can see back in 2003, this was one of the very first of the F-Series, 881. So this was the 881st F-Series watch made in 2003, which gives you an excellent frame of reference for when the F-Series started. Audemars Piguet steps up one letter in sequence every 100,000 watches. Caliber 2226 with a 2840 vertical clutch chronograph module. The base caliber is a Jaeger-LeCoultre 889. Bidirectional automatic winding, 28,800 vibrations per hour, 38-hour power reserve. It features both a quick set for the date as well as hacking seconds. The watch remains, despite its push-down style crown, 100 meters water resistant. 54 joule modular high horology chronograph caliber. Remember that when this watch was made in 2003, Audemars Piguet was only 3 years removed from selling its 40% stake in Jaeger-LeCoultre, and historically the two companies have been intertwined since the 1870s, so I have no problem with the Jaeger-LeCoultre motor inside this hot rod of an Offshore. And make no mistake, this is one heck of a watch. By the standards of the Offshore, this is above category, to use Tour de France language. There's the 42, there's the 44, and then there's the 48, and make no mistake, the 48 is top dog. Reserved only for the Terminator himself and Shaq. You can put one on your wrist on the watch box. Well, the Terminator can see at night, but you can't, so you need Luminova. And the T3 offers you plenty of it. An enormous, blinding, torch-like dial. You can see this one by the light of day on the watch box.